All right, so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into overrated tech.
Woo!
Those gadgets and gizmos that promise us the world and
Right.
don't always quite deliver.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at a YouTube video script outline called Top 10 Overrated Tech Products.
Okay.
Just as a disclaimer, this is one person's opinion,
Sure.
but we're going to be looking at their reasoning and using that to
Right.
kind of jump off into a conversation.
Yeah, I think that this is such a great topic for discussion because
Yeah.
everyone has different opinions about what tech is overrated.
Totally.
Like everyone has had that moment where they've bought something and have been like,
Yes.
oh, why did I spend money on this?
Exactly.
It's going to be fun.
All right, so number 10 on this list is the smart fridge.
Okay.
And, they talk about it being overpriced, unreliable, often requires subscriptions.
Oh, yeah.
And, frankly, a simple inventory app could achieve similar results.
It really makes you think, like, do we really need our fridge to tell us we're low on milk? For all of that money and for this potential privacy concerns,
Yeah.
I think that's a great point that it brings up is all the data that these things collect.
Yeah, and, I have to admit, I've been tempted by those fridges that have, like, the cameras in them,
Oh, yeah.
where you can look and see what you have from your phone.
Right.
But then I'm like, I could just open the fridge.
You could just open the fridge.
Like I'm already there.
Yeah, it's a solution looking for a problem.
Exactly. All right, so number 9 on the list is wireless charging pads for phones. And the outline says that they're slower and less reliable than a good old-fashioned cable.
Yeah, and honestly, have you ever tried to use your phone while it's on one of those pads?
Oh my God, it's the worst.
It's like the most awkward, like you can't do anything with it.
It's just there. It's tethered.
Yeah.
So I do love the idea of a clutter-free desk with no wires.
Right.
But I'm not sure the convenience is worth the trade-off.
Yeah. I think it's all about like weighing those pros and cons. Like, is it actually more convenient or am I just, paying for something that's not really that much better?
Yeah, exactly. All right, number 8 on the list is overpriced smartwatches with limited functionality.
Okay.
So the argument here is that despite those hefty price tags, a lot of these smartwatches,
Right.
they struggle with battery life, and they just offer these limited features beyond basic fitness tracking.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of companies just kind of keep adding features to justify a higher price. But like, are those features actually useful or are they just kind of gimmicks that drain our battery?
And don't forget, we all already have these smartphones.
That's true.
Like super powerful computers.
Yeah, incredibly powerful.
So do we really need
Yeah.
another device that does the same things?
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Especially if it dies halfway through the day.
Yeah, especially if it dies halfway through the day.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Exactly. Right. Number 7 on the list is gimmicky VR headsets that require expensive PCs.
Okay.
So the outline is calling out the high cost, the limited content, and the potential for motion sickness.
Yeah, VR has so much potential
Right.
to be this amazing thing, but I don't think the technology's quite there yet for it to be widely adopted.
Yeah.
Like, you need the expensive headset, you need a really powerful computer to run it,
Yes.
and then there's the motion sickness issue.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people struggle with that.
I tried VR one time, and I had to
Oh, no.
I had to hold on to like a virtual tree to keep from feeling like I was going to fall over.
Yeah, it's a common problem.
Yeah.
It's a shame because it has so much potential.
Right.
But
yeah, it needs more time.
Yeah, it needs a little more time to develop.
Right. So number 6 on the list is electric scooters in cities with poor infrastructure.
Okay.
So this one highlights the safety concerns, the limited range, and practicality of these scooters in areas that are not designed for them.
Totally. Like, they can be a really fun and efficient way to get around.
Right.
But only if the city that you're in is set up for them.
Yeah, like imagine trying to ride one of those things down like a street full of potholes.
Yeah, or like a really crowded sidewalk.
And with limited range.
Yeah.
Like, that could be scary.
Yeah.
And also, even if we ignore the practicality, what about the environmental impact?
Yeah, that's a great point.
While the scooters themselves are electric, their production and maintenance still have an ecological footprint.
Totally. We have to start thinking about the whole life cycle of a product.
Exactly.
Not just like, is it cool when it first comes out, but like, what happens at the end of its life?
Yeah, what happens when
does it go?
When it's not cool anymore.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we are halfway through this list. Number 5 is foldable phones with high price and durability concerns.
Yeah.
So they're talking about how they're expensive, fragile,
right,
and, gimmicky rather than a practical innovation.
It's a good example of, like, technology just maybe getting ahead of itself. Like, do we really need a phone that folds in half?
Right.
Like, what problem is that actually solving?
Is it actually solving a problem, or is it just like a cool thing?
Right. And are they durable? Like, I've heard so many reports of, like, the screens crapping.
Yeah, I've seen those phones, and they look really cool.
Yeah.
But I would be terrified to use one.
Yeah.
I would just think I was going to break it.
Especially for the price you'd want it to be.
Yes.
A little bit more.
A little more durable.
Yeah.
All right, number 4 on the list is smart speakers with privacy concerns.
Ooh, yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah, so the outline is really focusing on how these devices are always listening. They could be invading our privacy.
Yeah.
While their functionality is often very basic.
Totally. It's like that classic kind of like ethical dilemma
of
our modern world. Of like, yeah, it's convenient, but at what cost?
Yeah.
How much of my privacy am I willing to give up?
Yeah, I mostly use mine for like music and setting timers.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do get that feeling like, is it listening to me when I don't want it to?
Yeah, it's like, is it always on? Is it sending all this information back?
It's like a little sigh in the corner.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, number 3 on the list is noise-canceling headphones with overhyped noise cancellation.
Okay.
So the argument is that they aren't as effective as advertised.
Right.
Especially in real-world scenarios.
Yeah.
And that high price tag, doesn't always match the improvement.
Yeah, they're great at blocking out, like, constant low-frequency sounds, like on an airplane or something.
Yeah.
But they can't really do anything about, like, a sudden sharp sound.
Right.
It's like they can't magically silence a crying baby.
It's not a magic like force field.
It would be nice if they could, but...
Yeah, that would be great.
Not quite there yet.
Yeah. I actually kind of like being aware of my surroundings sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm like walking around outside.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to know if a car's coming.
Yeah, I don't want to be completely shut off from the world.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
All right, we are down to our final 2 products on this list.
All right.
Number 2, gaming chairs that are ergonomically unsound. So they're saying that, despite the marketing, they're often uncomfortable.
Yeah, this is another example of marketing maybe being a little bit misleading.
All right.
Like, just because something is labeled ergonomic doesn't mean it actually is.
Right, like there's no one-size-fits-all chair.
Yeah. What works for one person is not going to work for another.
I tried a lot of gaming chairs.
Yeah.
And a lot of them feel really stiff and overstuffed to me.
Yeah.
I would much rather have a good quality office chair with like proper lumbar support.
And even then, like, you can't just sit in a chair all day. Yeah. Like, our bodies are made to move. So it doesn't really matter what kind of chair you're sitting in. You need to get up and move around.
Exactly. Sometimes the best tech solution is to just get away from the tech.
That's so true.
Yep. All right. Drum roll, please. Number 1 on the list.
Okay.
Any product with a mandatory subscription service for basic features.
Oh, yeah, that is...
they specifically call it a smart scale that wants you to pay a subscription
to
do things like track your weight over time.
That is ridiculous. Like, come on. You're really good.
Like, that's basic functionality.
Yeah. It's like they're holding basic features hostage.
Like, we're headed for a world where we have to pay a subscription for everything.
I know. Can you imagine? Like a subscription toaster.
Like a subscription toaster, bread level analysis, optimal toasting algorithms.
Oh my goodness.
Like...
That's hilarious, but also scary.
Yeah, it's like...
Because it could actually happen.
It could totally happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we don't have to accept this.
No, we don't.
We can vote with our wallets and support companies.
Totally.
Prioritize customer satisfaction over, maximizing profits.
Exactly.
So what do you think are some things that we can do to be more mindful consumers?
I think the first thing is just being aware of the potential pitfalls, like we've been talking about. Be skeptical of those marketing claims. Do your research, read reviews. And really ask yourself, like, do I need this? Does it align with my values? Are there any more sustainable alternatives?
It's like really being intentional with our tech choices.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than just getting swept up on the hype.
Exactly. And finding that balance between, like, enjoying the benefits of technology and being critical of the potential downsides.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Finding that balance. Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah. All right. So before we get too deep into those downsides, I think it's time for us to take a breath.
Okay.
Stretch our legs, and we'll be back.
Sounds good.
With more overrated tech in just a minute.
All right, cool.
So, I was thinking during that last part about how a lot of these gadgets, they're all about convenience and entertainment.
Right.
And it made me wonder if maybe we've become a little bit too focused on making life easier or more fun at the expense of other things.
I think that's a really interesting point. Like, is all this tech actually making our lives better?
Right. Or is it just creating these new dependencies and distractions?
Totally. And what about, like, the environmental cost of all this stuff?
Like, we're churning out these new devices so quickly.
Right.
And a lot of them just end up in landfills.
Yeah, we need to be more mindful of the resources that go into making these things and the waste that they create.
Like, maybe we should be focusing more on repairing, reusing, and recycling?
Exactly. Like, that should be celebrated, not seen as, like...
Right, like some weird...
Yeah, like your weird uncle in the basement.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, this is something that we should all be doing. Like, we need to break free from this cycle of consumerism and think about the long-term sustainability of our tech choices.
I love that. All right, so let's get back to the list.
Okay.
We are down to the final 2 products on this list.
Ooh, exciting.
I have a feeling these are going to be controversial.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, number 2, gaming chairs that are ergonomically unsound. So the source is saying that, despite all the marketing about ergonomic design, these chairs are often uncomfortable for long periods.
It's another one of those marketing things where, like, just because they slap the word ergonomic on it doesn't mean it actually is.
Right.
Like, true ergonomic design is about individualization. It's about your body type, your posture, how you work.
It's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
I tried out a few gaming chairs.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty disappointed, honestly.
Oh, no.
They feel stiff and overstuffed.
Yeah.
And those ergonomic features feel more like marketing than actual support.
Yeah. I'd rather just have a good office chair with some good lumbar support.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, it doesn't matter how good your chair is.
Totally.
You just got to get up and move.
You have to get up and move. Yeah. Our bodies are not designed to just sit all day long. It doesn't matter how good the chair is.
Exactly. Sometimes the best tech solution is to just step away from the tech.
That's so true.
All right. So drum roll, please.
Okay.
Number 1, overrated tech product.
Let's hear it.
Any product with a mandatory subscription service for basic features.
Oh, yes.
They give the example of a smart scale.
Oh, wow.
That wants you to pay a subscription.
Seriously?
To track your weight over time.
Seriously. Like, that's basic functionality.
Come on.
Come on. You're going to charge me for that. Yeah. It's like they're holding features hostage behind this paywall.
Yeah, and it's like we're heading towards this future.
Right.
Where we have to pay a subscription for everything.
Can you imagine, like, a subscription toaster?
Oh, my God.
That's like
bread level analysis.
Yeah, optimal toasting algorithm.
You'd have to pay extra for
like
gluten-free settings.
It's hilarious, but also scary.
It's like, what?
Yeah. It's like, where does it end?
Yeah.
What are we going to have to pay for next?
But we don't have to accept this.
No, we don't. We have a choice. We can vote with our wallets.
Exactly. We can support companies that are prioritizing customer satisfaction over just maximizing their profits.
Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up this list, what advice do you have for our listeners who want to be more mindful consumers?
I think, like we've been talking about, just being aware of those potential pitfalls, being skeptical of those marketing claims, doing your research, reading reviews, asking yourself those important questions. Like, do I really need this? Does this align with my values? Are there more sustainable alternatives out there?
It's about being intentional with our tech choices.
Yeah, exactly. And not just getting swept up in the hype.
Exactly. And, as we've been talking about this list of overrated tech, I've been thinking about, like, the bigger picture of our relationship with technology.
Interesting.
It feels like we're becoming increasingly reliant on it to do things for us that we used to do ourselves or maybe never even needed to do in the first place.
I'm curious to hear where you're going with this.
Like, we rely on GPS to navigate spell check, to write social media, to connect with people.
Right.
But is this making us less capable?
That's a really good...
in the long run?
Like, are we shooting off our own skills and abilities for the convenience of technology? Like, we're becoming more dependent on these digital crutches.
Exactly. And I wonder if that makes us more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Less adaptable.
What happens when the technology fails?
Right.
Or if we're in a situation where it's not available?
What happens when the robots rise up? And take away our smartphones?
That is a scary thought.
We'll be lost.
Yeah, like completely helpless.
Exactly. So I think it's important to find a balance. We should definitely enjoy those benefits that technology offers.
Yes.
But we also need to make sure we're maintaining our own skills and abilities.
Like, we need to be able to think critically, solve problems, connect with each other, without relying on technology to do it for us.
It's about finding that healthy coexistence.
Exactly. Yeah. Where we can appreciate technology and use it, but not become subservient to it.
Yes.
It's a tricky balance.
It is a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And one that I think, as a society, we need to have more conversations about.
I agree. This deep dive has really just scratched the surface. Like, there's so much more to explore about the impact technology is having on our lives.
Absolutely. But before we get too philosophical here, I want to hear from our listeners.
Yes.
What tech product do you think is overrated?
Yeah.
What criteria do you use to decide if a new piece of tech is worth your time and money?
Tell us. We want to know.
Share your thoughts with us on social media.
Yeah, leave a comment on our website.
We're always looking for, thoughtful discussions.
Yes.
About technology and its role in our lives.
Absolutely.
So on that note, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Grab another refill, contemplate your tech choices.
Sounds good.
And we'll be right back.
Cool.
So before we wrap up this whole overrated tech conversation, I wanted to go back to something we talked about before.
Okay.
Which is the power of marketing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these campaigns can really shape how we think about technology.
Yeah.
And what we think we need.
It's like they're constantly telling us we need the newest thing, the latest gadget, the best features.
Right.
And we don't stop and think like, do we actually need this?
Yeah. It's so easy.
You get caught up in it all.
Yeah, getting pulled in by the hype.
Especially with technology.
Right.
There's that
allure of the new.
Totally.
Like, I got to have the latest thing.
Yeah.
And then there's that fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah. FOMO.
That's
FOMO.
a
nice big one.
We see everyone around us using it.
Right. All over social media.
Our friends, our coworkers, YouTubers we watch.
Yeah, we don't want to be left behind.
We don't want to be left behind.
Right.
But, sometimes it's okay.
Yeah.
To just say no.
Totally.
It's okay to not jump on every single trend.
Sometimes the best tech is the tech you don't buy.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's about being discerning, making those conscious choices.
Exactly.
That align with our values.
Yeah. And recognizing that sometimes, the simple solution is the best solution.
Right.
Like, you don't always need...
We don't need the fanciest.
Yeah. The most expensive thing with all the bells and whistles.
Yes.
Sometimes a more basic option works perfectly well.
And, as we've been talking about this, it's important to remember that technology isn't always this force for good.
Totally.
There are downsides, there are risks.
Yeah.
We've talked about some of them.
Right, like privacy.
Privacy, environmental impact.
The
potential for addiction.
Right.
And, even
the potential for technology to be used for bad things, like spreading misinformation or even violence.
Yeah, so how do we navigate this?
Right.
It's complex.
Yeah, it's a big question.
How do we make sure that technology is used to make things better?
Right.
Not worse.
I think it starts with education.
Okay.
Like, we need to teach people about the potential downsides.
Okay.
How to use it safely, how to think critically about the information they encounter online.
And we also need to, hold these tech companies accountable.
Totally.
For the products they create.
Yes, demand transparency.
Transparency, privacy, ethical design.
Yeah, it's not just about individual responsibility.
Right.
It's about systemic change.
Yes, and we should support organizations that are working towards a better tech future.
Absolutely. Like, there are a lot of great people out there fighting the good fight.
I think it's also important to have these conversations.
Right.
Like the one we're having.
Totally. Like, these conversations are so important.
Yeah, to share our concerns, share our hopes.
Yeah, to share our ideas for the future of technology.
So it's time to wrap up this deep dive into overrated tech.
All right.
We hope this has given you some things to think about.
Yeah.
And maybe inspired you to be a more mindful consumer.
Absolutely.
As always, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What tech product do you think is overrated?
Right.
What are your criteria for buying new tech?
Let us know.
Share your thoughts with us on social media.
Yeah, leave us a comment on our website.
We are always eager to hear from you.
Yes.
So until next time, stay curious, stay informed.
Stay mindful.
Stay mindful and happy listening.
Bye.